Hey everybody, it's me, your social studies teacher since 2009, Dr. Gatton. How are you? We've made it to May, week 7, and we are coming down the home stretch. So, may the 4th be with you to all my Star Wars fans out there. Does Luke Skywalker actually walk on the sky? I don't know. Does he? I've never seen Star Wars, so I don't know. Can't tell you. Well, this week we're going to look at the Underground Railroad. So this week you've got 3 assignments, as you can see here on my screen. Oh, other way. As you can see, pointing that way, you can see I've got the essential oil diffuser going. Remember that? Smells like lavender today. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to explain the assignments, but I also have a little PowerPoint for you. The PowerPoint I have also attached to assignment number 1. So you have you can also go back and look at the PowerPoint if you would like. So 3 assignments this week. Really focuses on the Underground Railroad for the first 2 assignments. And then I'm going to have you look at Sojourner Truth and Ain't I a Woman speech to kind of finalize things off for this week. Okay, for your first assignment, you'll be looking at Harriet Tubman and the importance of the Underground Railroad. And you'll actually do a choose your own adventure. So you will go to the Google Slides here, and it will you'll read along, and you'll basically go to different pages. It'll say jump to page 2, jump to page 3, jump to page 4, and then you'll answer the questions there. So let's take a look before we get too much into it about who these people were. Let me explain the assignments real quick, and then we'll get into it. So here you have just another chart I'd like you to fill out. If you click here, it'll go to the bookmark, and it'll go to that section of the reading. So you'll learn about William Wooper and the Underground Railroad, and you'll look at primary sources, things that he wrote to Mr. William Still. So you have William and William. So you can just look at these, the different parts, and fill in the boxes there for me. And then finally, you're going to have a little reading and answer about Sojourner Truth's Ain't I a Woman speech. Now, there's a little controversy because there are 2 different versions of the speech. I would like you first to look at the video here of the speech. Okay, and I provided the link for you in the assignment. I'm not going to do the speech for you because I tried it in rehearsal and it wasn't as good as this YouTube video. So I'm gonna let her do her thing there. Okay, and so there is Miss Truth there, and you're going to so here's where it's a little tricky. You're gonna read this version. Then you're going to answer a few questions 1 to 5. Then you're going to not answer 6 and 7. You're going to read this version, and then you're going to answer 6 and 7. Okay, so read, answer, after you watch the video. All right, let's pull up there's Buffalo now, and you gotta remember that. Let's pull up the PowerPoint that I have created for you. The Underground Railroad. Now we know that the Underground Railroad was neither a railroad, people did not go on trains, and it was not underground. Although people did hide underneath houses, okay? Especially if the people were coming out to search for them. So the Underground Railroad is just the name. given to this particular process of freeing slaves from the South to the north of the United States, but also, slaves didn't just go to from southern states to northern states. A lot of slaves actually went into Canada, into Ontario, Canada, which is where Toronto is located. So they also went down into Mexico as well, or went west. So just don't think that slaves went from south to north. Okay, they went south to north, but then they also went north north to Canada, or they went south south to Mexico, or west west to here in California. And we remember California was never a slave state. Now, there is a lot of good information in your textbook starting on page 424. From 424 to 429, there's a lot of really good information on the Underground Railroad as well. So even though you don't need to answer anything from those pages in the textbook, it's a really good resource for you to have. I've also provided a link on Schoology to just that section of the textbook. So if you don't have your textbook, you have that digital, you have the whole digital copy of the book on Schoology, but I also then break it down so that you have just that section. So if you want to click on that link, you can do that. It's called American Voices, the Underground Railroad. So you can, it looks a little something like that. So you can see that there. So it's also a great resource for you guys to look. Okay, the Underground Railroad. History. And let's see if I can kind of put me even further in the corner there. So the first fugitive slave law was enacted in 1793, and it made it illegal to help those escaping slavery. Something we need to recognize and understand is that the Underground Railroad was not just, you know, enslaved people and free slaves helping enslaved people, but there were also white people helping out as well. Okay, and so in terms of escape, those people helping is escape slaves. There were white people as well. Okay, it was very secretive, the Underground Railroad. In fact, it's so secretive we really don't know the exact numbers of who um, of how many people made it out. Okay. A tougher law was enacted in 1850, so now we're getting closer to the start of the Civil War. 1850 is about the period that if we were in class together, we would be focused on. And it required and law enforcement to basically arrest you if you were suspected of escaping. And what was the problem of this? It's basically racial profiling. It's basically like, you're black, you're probably an escaped slave. And I could probably justify that just because you were of that particular skin color. Okay, there are no white slaves running around. Okay, so this is really an example of racial profiling that we see early on. Okay, careful there. Fines in prison were penalties for anyone being someone escaping. So if you were housing somebody that was, if you were caught, if an escaped slave was caught in your house, then you could also go to jail. Okay, and so it was a very dangerous exercise for not only the people who were escaping, but the people who were helping them. Okay, so something to keep in mind. But a lot of people did it because a lot of people knew that it was the right thing to do. Oh, the Underground Railroad developed as a secret escape route by abolitionists. Remember, you guys are all abolitionists. I asked you that question 100 times this semester in the school year. Are you an abolitionist? The answer is always yes, Dr. Cotton. I am an abolitionist. Okay, the goal was always to have somewhere to stay every night. So you would travel, by at night, and the goal was that you would be able to walk, run, okay, within a day's walk between the different stations. The houses were called stations, or wherever you were staying, a barn, for example, or in a shop, or whatever type of building it was, that was called a station. Okay. Now there were encoded theories, encoded messages called the quilt theory And they talk about in the textbook, they talk about the quilted codes on page 429 and how you would like hang a blanket in the window, and the different patches were symbols and they represented different things. For example, in the book, it talks about how wagon wheel design may have told escapees to pack for traveling. It also could have meant escapees would be hiding in a wagon within a secret compartment. So this was like code, so that people who weren't familiar with the Underground Railroad would just think, "Oh, there's a blanket hanging in the window," because maybe they haven't, gotten purchased curtains yet, or maybe those are the type of curtains they want to have. I am not very familiar with 1850s interior design. I'm sorry. Okay. So, um, if you want to learn more about the quilt theory and quilted codes, go to page 429. Here are the different routes to freedom. As you can see on the map, okay, they're not only going into the north into free territories, but they're also going into Canada. Okay, and they're also going south down into Mexico. They're going into the Bahamas, into the Caribbean as well. Okay, so these were the different corridors. So, I mean, if you were to get to the Bahamas, for example, and no one's going to come looking for you there. I mean, yeah, Atlantis hasn't been built yet. Okay, he ain't gonna go dancing swimming with the dolphins. All right. So here's another map. You can see different routes that they took. Sometimes they traveled by ship. Okay, again, we see I'm pointing at the map, which is a mistake because you can't see me pointing at the map. But you can see that they also went into Montreal there and then into the north. Okay, so again, different routes that they took. Okay, again, very, very secretive. You see a lot of those routes going through Ohio because it's central, okay, and then fanning out from there. So, conductors and station masters, these were the names of the people who were conductors who would travel with the escaped slaves, showing them where to go. Station masters would be the people in the buildings along the way. So, of course, the most famous is Harriet Tubman. And no, you are not hallucinating or freaking out. Her eyes are moving and she is kind of, "Hi, Harriet, how are you?" That wrong way. "Hi, Harriet, how are you?" Okay. Of course, we know Harriet Tubman to be the most famous conductor. Okay. And there's a lot of great a lot of great information here between 424 and 429 in your textbook. The quote there in the book says it all, I think. "I think slavery is the next thing to hell." And that is the quote that the book provides for you there on page 424. So it's estimated she made about 19 trips and helped over 300 people. And which is pretty, pretty crazy. And yes, there is talk about her being on the $20 bill instead of Andrew Jackson. And I'm all in support of that. But I don't think that's going to happen with the current administration in charge. Don't want to get too political. But yes, there is talk about putting Harriet on the $20 bill. And why not? So that's Harriet. Okay. So you're going to be doing an assignment with Harriet. Um, that'll be your first assignment this week. Here's Levi Coffin again. He was a wealthy Quaker farmer, Quaker, a business leader. He was known as the president of the Underground Railroad. Again, people needed money. You need money if you're going to do anything like this. I don't think that's very funny, Levi. You're laughing a little too hysterically over there. Okay, calm down. Thank you. Okay. He was involved in Indiana and Ohio, and estimated to help over 3,000 slaves escape freedom. Now, not directly like Harriet Tubman, but he was more of like the puppet master, the logistics guy, making sure everything happened. Oh, you like my puppet master joke, Levi? Okay, goodbye. Whoop, did I skip over? Hold on. Uh-oh. Oh, no, okay. Whoop, whoop. No more Levi. He's a little creepy. Frederick Douglass, we've looked at him before. Again, one of the most famous abolitionists, escaped slavery in 1838. You can see he's wearing a nice, suit and vest. Okay, again, very intelligent man, prominent abolitionist. Um, but in terms of the Underground Railroad, he was somebody who, if they were going to Canada, um, you would probably stop at Frederick Douglass's home, which is in Rochester, New York. Rochester is in the western part of New York, not near New York City, but it's close to Canada. And there you go. Interesting fun fact about Rochester: they have you can get what is called a trash plate in Rochester, New York, and they just throw a bunch of food on a plate called a trash plate. Very bizarre. So that was Frederick Douglass. William Wooper is your second assignment, and you'll be looking at letters that William Wooper wrote, okay, to another gentleman by the name of William. And he was a business owner. He was free. Again, he was somebody who helped with the financial support of the Underground Railroad. Okay. And so he was a very prominent businessman and someone who, like I said, this whole operation needed money. And so because whenever you have somebody giving money, they feel like they can have more of a say or more influence in what goes on. So those primary documents you'll look at, you'll see about William and his suggestions and what he would like to be done in terms of the Underground Railroad because he was the one funding it, or partially funding it. Okay, and he's sending letters to this gentleman by the name of William Still, who is a freeborn African American from Jersey, and he was also really crucial in the Underground Railroad, um, helping a lot of over 800 slaves escape, um, as a station master. So again, somebody who was um, not running along with the slaves, but or escaped slaves, but at a particular station. What's important about William is that he interviewed and kept really good, detailed records. So that's why we have some information about the Underground Railroad, even though it was so secretive. It's estimated that around 100,000 men, women, and children escaped via the railroad. But again, it might be more, it might be less. Okay. Most former slaves, like I said, settled in Canada. But a lot actually came back after the Civil War. And, slavery was abolished, the Emancipation Proclamation, which we'll get into in the coming weeks. Many slaves came back. It's cold in Canada. Ever been? I went to Canada once, and it was at the end of May, and it was freezing. Just saying, it's cold. I would like the cold. All right, so that is your PowerPoint for today. I'm sinking in the chair, and I've provided this for you, so you have this PowerPoint if you want to look through it again, and you want to be creeped out by all the people moving and blinking in the slides. So you have your 3 assignments. Those are explained to you here in this folder. Remember, if you click on the folder, title, name, you open it, it should work. Then your 3 assignments pop up for you here. Or the other thing you could do is you click on this little arrow next to the folder, the description goes away, and the assignments pop up. So there you have just 3 assignments for this week. So the 2 related to the Underground Railroad and this Sojourner Truth Ain't I a Woman speech examination. That's about all, guys. So I'll stop talking since I've been talking a lot here, and I'll let you get back to it. And if you have any questions, let me know. All right. Hope all's well, and I will see you guys next time on the old YouTube world.